If you follow Samsung phone leaks in particular, it seems like the folding phone leaks, you know as well as I do that these rumors are often all over the place and very, very hard to follow. Things are said one day that are contradicted the next day, and it is very, very difficult to ascertain what is actually happening. With the upcoming Samsung Galaxy Z Trifold, that's what we're going to be calling this device. I think that might end up being the actual name of the thing. And yes, I know it only folds twice and trifold doesn't really make sense. And yes, I know all about wallets and pamphlets and things like this. That doesn't make sense to me either. We're just going to move on. I'm tired of arguing about this collectively. We all just need to get over it and move on because it is what it is. The rumors have been equally confusing and hard to track here as well. So what I've done is I took the liberty of putting together an article over here on shanecraig.tech where I tried to just bring everything together into one article. And the reason that we're readdressing this right now is because we have a fresh bit of information that we're going to start with. We're going to scroll down past, we're going to go over all this, don't worry, just in case you've been missing out. But we're going to start down here, global release rumors, because this is really, really important, right? So we've heard for a long time, Samsung themselves literally said, we're going to launch this thing in 2025. It is now November, so that is going to be very, very soon, right? But we haven't known where it's going to be coming out at. The rumors had been China and South Korea because that is what they did with the Z Fold Special Edition, and it seemed to be what they're going to be doing here as well. But we have some new information. And just to give credit where credit is due, we're going to jump over to the source of this, which is Android headlines. And basically what we're talking about here is model numbers for this device and what they might mean. Samsung's first trifold smartphone has appeared on Bluetooth SIG, and based on what we've seen, it will make its way to both the US and Europe. So we have model numbers here. I'm not going to read through all of these because that would be very, very boring, but basically these model numbers are indicative of different regions. The letter, the code at the end, N, U1B, these mean something. So the first two models are aiming for China and South Korea. So the D6390 and the D639U are going to be China and South Korea. The third and fourth models are aimed at launch in the United States. These are carrier-locked and unlocked models. The 639B, on the other hand, is the international variant. So this is fairly straightforward. We have model numbers for this device which indicate release in regions that aren't just South Korea and China. Now, this doesn't tell us anything about timing. When will these releases happen? I still think it's entirely possible that South Korea and China get this device first, and then the other regions maybe happen later on, early next year or something like that. So now that it seems like you might actually be able to buy the thing, let's talk about the thing itself. Let's quickly run through everything that we think we know about it so far. So in terms of the folding mechanism, the device features two hinges. You can see on this image here, which I did not make expandable. Let me fix that. Which you can see right here. One hinge is there and one hinge is there. This is actually an animation that was buried inside a One UI beta, and it showed, I think, putting the device on a wireless charger. So this is more or less what the phone's going to look like. We actually do have photos of this thing now as well, but this kind of gives you a good idea of the design, how this thing's actually going to work. Two hinges on either side of a cover display in the middle, cameras on the far left-hand side. And of course, we've seen Samsung Display have prototypes exactly like this in the past, so this is what they're going with. Now, because of this design, you can only ever use the device fully opened or fully closed. You're not going to be like opening it up part of the way and using a slightly expanded screen real estate like you could in something like the Huawei Mate XT. This is either opened or closed. Now, one big benefit of this is when it's closed, you don't have any of that internal screen being exposed to the outside world. It is completely protected. So Samsung is going for a sort of more durable form factor versus one that is more flexible. So that inner screen is rumored to be 10 inches diagonal. The cover display is approximately 6.5 inches, very, very similar to the Galaxy Z Fold 7. In terms of thickness, rumors are it's basically the same as the Fold 7 at 4.2 millimeters thick. Now, when you fold the thing over, it's folding twice, right? So you could reasonably try and take that 4.2 and multiply it times 3, and that would be like, what, 12.6? But you have to keep in mind that with all of these foldables, you do have a little bit of bezel around the outside of the screen that sticks up something like 0.5 mm, and that is not usually included in the measurements of the device, so you have to account for that. So somewhere between 12 and 15 millimeters thick when closed is what I would be expecting. And while that is much thicker than the Z Fold 7, obviously, or the Oppo Find N5, Honor Magic V5, it is still thinner than some prior Z Fold releases, so it's not going to be that big of a deal to have this thing actually in your pocket. In terms of the battery, we've seen in patents that it might have a little bit of battery in all three panels, and that could allow them to push the capacity to over 5,000 milliamp hours, which is going to be super necessary because it's a 10-inch screen. For the cameras, probably looking at a 200 megapixel primary sensor, which is the same as what we have on the Fold 7 as well as on the Ultra phones. In terms of the other sensors, very little is known. I would expect something similar to what we have on the Fold 7 for the telephoto and the ultra wide, probably something like a 3x, although a little bit more about that telephoto here coming up in just a second. S Pen support, the rumors have been really back and forth. Maybe there's an active stylus that allows S Pen to return. We're really not sure on that one. We've seen lots of other software things. So this was a series of posts on Twitter from Tech Highest, and they showed a bunch of things, again, buried inside a One UI beta. And a lot of these things are really straightforward. So things continuing cover display to the inner screen. So basically, you open the thing up and the app you're using just expands and continues. Lots of typical Z Fold type stuff. One really cool thing, though, is Samsung DeX running directly on the inner screen. So proper floating windows support, proper, like real true desktop mode on the inner screen. We also did see here an animation for the camera application, which this is probably hard for you to see, but it shows them zooming into 100x. That's not something that the Fold 7 can do because the sensor's not capable of that. It's just not worth doing. So are they doing some AI upscaling? Is this a better sensor? Not exactly sure, but there could be something going on there. And of course, we're going to have the same kinds of split screen multitasking that we're used to having on Z Fold devices, windowing 3 different applications all at once, moving things around. This thing is going to be capable of doing a whole heck of a lot. And I mentioned that we had real world photos. Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about that. There was this event, the K-Tech Showcase in South Korea, and the phone was shown behind glass. You couldn't touch it, you couldn't use it, but you could see it. And through that, we got a lot of looks at this device. And you can see here, this looks very much like the Z Fold 7 in terms of thickness. Hole punch selfie camera on the right-hand side. I think you probably already saw this image earlier in the video, but it fully closed, showing this sort of spiral shape, which I think looks absolutely wild. You can get an idea of the thickness here. Again, hole punch selfie camera on that cover display as well. Another look at how thick the thing is from the side. And this looks about like my Z Fold 4 or something like that, you know, not the end of the world. And then this image here showing the thing opened up from behind. Camera bump looks the same as the Fold 7. LED flashes in the same location. Cover display looks really similar to the Fold 7 to me as well. Maybe a little bit wider, but I can't really tell exactly what's going on there. It's possible that the bezels are a little bit thicker and that's making it be a little bit wider appearing, but the actual screen itself could be the same as the Fold 7. Regardless, I think the thing looks absolutely tremendous, and the software experience, if it is what we are expecting with DeX running on that inner screen, should be tremendous as well. We should know very soon if you're going to be able to buy this thing in the US. It seems like you're going to be able to. When? Hard to say. For how much? Hard to say. Could be, getting close to $3,000 for all we know. It's going to be very expensive. But nonetheless, that's where we are with the Galaxy Z Trifold as of November the 3rd. That is what we know, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content like this, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.